Hello everyone, it is Leon here, and
hello, this is Dave.
And we're looking at the Phantom Pain, which, as I was saying earlier, I must not call the Phantom Menace. We're going to go through this and have a look at all the various clues that basically say this is Metal Gear Solid 5. It was announced on last Friday at the VGAs, supposedly developed by a studio called Moby Dick Studios, which a few people rooted around, found their website's only 6 days old. It doesn't seem to have any staff, doesn't seem to have anything attached to it. The people who were seen milling around the VGAs wearing Moby Dick t-shirts didn't look Swedish, is where it's supposed to be. The head of the studio is a man. Oh, I've forgotten his name. That's terrible. But the man's name is an anagram of Kojima, which is a fairly obvious clue. But basically, there's so much stuff in this trailer that looks like it's Metal Gear Solid 5. It's kind of embarrassing. We'll go through it all piece by piece, starting with this guy, who is a dead ringer for Dr. Marv, who is an old character from Metal Gear 2. So we're talking like
back in the MSX.
Yeah, MSX stages. The resemblance is uncanny. The bald head, the glasses, the moustache. He is the scientist who produced Oilix, which was the sort of the petroleum-producing bacteria that drove the Metal Gear Solid 2 game. He was a Czechoslovakian scientist. This guy's got an Eastern European accent, so there's a lot to suggest that this is, if it's not Keogh Marv, sorry, then it's still a clue. There is a nurse in the background as well. I think she comes around a bit better in a second when this guy walks off. But the nurse, that uniform is essentially the stuff that Kojima was showing off with the Fox Engine tech.
Yeah, it was actually linked to Project Ogre, so I don't know whether Project Ogre is still a separate thing or whether it could well be the Phantom Pain, because as you say, the kind of nurse outfits time and that, and there's also later on we'll see a horse, which also kind of syncs with what we saw from those early Project Ogre tweets last year. And
Kojima did tweet that Project Ogre features an actual ogre, and as we'll see in a minute, there are there's flaming horses, there's a death whale, an ogre could be here. Also, a lot of people picked up on the fact that there's a British flag in the background. Oh, yeah. I forget which character that ties into now, but I don't think that's as important as people make out at the moment. Let's move on and have a look at the rest of it. Now this is interesting. This car crash, Kojima tweeted.
And your pills.
Yeah, the pills. I'm not sure what they mean, but Kojima was tweeting a long time ago. Well, June actually. Sorry, all these mocap sessions of a car crash. People were hanging upside down. People were put in a car rig and put at odd angles. He also, at the same sessions, there were surgical instruments and a hospital director who was there to provide technical advice. So he'd been tweeting, "We're doing a car crash. We've got a guy in from a hospital to make sure we do hospital stuff right," and now all this stuff has turned up in the Phantom Pain. So there's Dr. Marv again. There's a nurse. I mean, that is essentially. Think about that. Is essentially exactly the same outfit that they were showing pictures of.
Transparent blouse. That's what Kojima was very excited about.
Yeah, they had the fabric. Fabric transparency. That was what they were really excited for. So
there's a radio in the. I wonder if we can glean anything from the kind of, if that's an old radio, whether what kind of, in terms of what era was sort of dealing with. I presume it'll be the 1970s.
Weirdly, that looks like a DAB, doesn't it? I mean, you wouldn't have buttons. You wouldn't have buttons on like that in an old radio.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay, and Moby Dick Studios. There's a whale in the trailer. We'll see that in a little while. But I was reading around Moby Dick trying to work out if there's anything we could sort of, infer from it. Like it's about obsession, isn't it? It's a man. Ahab is consumed by his sort of desire for revenge. And it ultimately kills him because he's killed by his own harpoon. He gets bound to the whale. The whale drags him down, and he's consumed by his own quest for revenge. So I don't know whether there's anything we can read into that.
I would say it's going to be a metaphorical whale, but there is an actual massive whale.
There is a massive whale, yeah. This is an interesting bit. The hook hand, don't know what to make of that just yet, although I've got a theory later on. But we do have these petals floating around, which are very reminiscent of the boss
against the boss at the end of MGS3 Snake Eater.
There is a lot of kind of references here that seem to tie into Metal Gear Solid 3. These flowers being one of them. We don't whether they're hallucinations or not. Well, I'm guessing they are because
I can't look at the hand without thinking of a portal gun.
But so there's a first great clue that this could be tying into like a sequel to 3.
Now that's interesting because that petal's red, and actually one of the right at the end of the boss, right at the end of Snake Eater, the
petals turn red.
Yeah, red after you shoot. Spoiler: the boss.
Okay, let's move on. So the hook, we don't know, what that might mean. I reckon later on, it looks like there's a character that does hallucination stuff. It looks like it might be Mantis, so it's possible that none of this is real, including the hands.
If the lead character, as we might suspect, is Big Boss, I can't remember Big Boss ever losing a hand.
No. Although there is
sort of time period, but
there is a portion of the Metal Gear mythology where Big Boss, prior to meeting Solid Snake in Metal Gear 1, does have limbs removed and has cyborg enhancements, and it's in some of the old mythology that is in I forget now, it's in one of the novelizations, it's in some of the really, really early game history stuff where he does effectively have a few enhancements and he does lose a few limbs, so that does tie into some very old canon.
That could track as well, even with more recent canon. At the end of MGS4, when he's resurrected, he's essentially built from both parts of Solidus Snake and kind of biometric parts as well. So.
Yeah. This character coming up now, everyone's basically saying is Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, that's definitely Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, see, I never really watched much 24, so I didn't register that. Hospital pants. This is a tenuous one, but essentially in Metal Gear Solid 4 he wears an almost identical set of hospital pants. A lot of people have also looked into the way he crawls in a moment. To try and...
Yeah, I noticed that the animation's very reminiscent from...
Ground Zeroes.
It's actually Ground Zeroes and a late section of MGS4 when...
The microwave section, yes.
When you have to kind of button mash away down the cord, it's very reminiscent of that animation. The angle as well is very reminiscent there, MGS4.
Now this is... I mentioned the Psycho Mantis character. A lot of people have decided that this character in the lift here is a young... Psycho Mantis.
That would be good.
Which would, I mean, if this was Naked Snake instead of Solid Snake, then Mantis was old in Metal Gear Solid 1. So
Mantis looked like a man in his 50s in MGS1.
Yeah, so this could feasibly be a young version of him. And he appears later on, we'll see him, and when he floats into the air in a very Mantis kind of way, his presence here would explain, as we'll see in a moment, all the kind of crazy hallucinations. In a minute, there we go. The first thing that follows after Mantis is this thing, am I in a dream? So it suggests that none of this could be real. This whole sort of crazy sort of sequence could be like a dream opening that you then find out what the real game is or what the real world is.
If we are thinking an Eastern European location was a Dr. Marv and other clues, I think Mantis, from what I can remember, is certainly Eastern European as well. He certainly got that like sort of Eastern European accent in MGS1, so that might track with the location as well.
Cool. Some more crawling. They make a big meal out of the fact that he's sort of paralysed and he can't seem to move properly. Like, see his hand not working there, and he sort of slams over to one side. So he's woken up from a coma. Now, there's in Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, there's this burnt character with a scarred face. Seems to be the sort of the polar opposite of Big Boss.
Seems to be the leader of the XOF faction.
Yeah. If we just take it back. So yeah, I'm wondering if this, this character here is that burnt-faced character that runs off that we see. Was Kiefer Sutherland? Was he this guy with the bandages, or was that? Yes,
he's
the bandage guy. Yeah, and the tagline of Ground Zeroes is "From Fox, 2 Phantoms were born," and we've got this clearly mulleted.
That's not coincidence. Nothing ever is like Kojima.
Clearly mulleted, eye-covered character that is obviously Snake, and then this other character who appears to be the burnt sort of faced man.
That is interesting, because now you think if they are allies here, the 2 Phantoms splitting off, this was perhaps where Foxhound and the XOF were kind of disbanded.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't know why, but there's soldiers basically killing everyone in this hospital. They're really kind of teasing the whole "we don't know what's going on" thing, but basically they seem to be checking everyone and then killing them. Is it almost as if they're looking for someone? pretty unpleasant little moment here.
The face tech looks very, very similar.
He does
to
look a
Ground
lot
Zeroes.
like that when they show the kid in Ground Zero, don't they? And they pause on his face when he kind of goes, emote, emote. And yeah, so it looks a little bit like that. Now here's where it starts to go kind of crazy. Killing all the patients again. Somebody pointed out, I don't know if we'll see it in a second, but the soldiers, you'll see a shot of the soldiers in a little while, and they're wearing the same helicopter sort of helmets from Ground Zero. Yeah. Now this character here, the legs are, that is basically portable ops armor, and he's sort of copying the Ground Zero's pose as well.
It looks like he's also wearing night vision goggles, or certainly some
This
sort
is
of headwear on his face.
He's got something on his face, yeah, and he does look like he's sort of copying that Ground Zero's poster where he sort of stares up. But those trousers, those kind of armoured leg pads, are definitely portable ops issue armour. And there's another character in a second when he arrives. Oh, there's the
yeah, that definitely does. Oh, more gas masky.
But it's sort of, they look a lot like the the portable ops soldiers. I mean, perhaps at the beginning of that bit of portable ops, we see them taking off and flying away. This is where they're going.
Ground Zeroes.
Ground Zeroes. What do I keep saying? Portable ops. Sorry. Now this character here,
that to me, I think into everyone definitely looks like Volgan.
Yeah,
maybe he's forward a tiny little bit so we can see his eyes.
The clue is I'm pointing here. The clue is those legs, the colour and the detailing, the sort of the banding and the dots in the middle. That's basically the armour, the colour scheme. Yeah, that's the armour that Volgan wears when he
when you have your one-on-one fight with him after he's taken off his massive jacket. Plus his thighs are incredibly beefy. Yeah,
and there's even a bit where you can sort of make out like the belt detailing,
and also the short sleeves is exactly the outfit Volgan fights in.
And it might not be Volgan for real, but it could be like a hallucination of Volgan. It may be the character, because Kojima also tweeted a picture of a character's face that looked a lot like Volgan in Fox Engine Tech. And it was a really weird tweet, just kind of going, who am I? I look like Volgan. Can I be in a game, please? It was a really odd, slightly crazy tweet. I don't know if it translated well, but he basically tweeted a sort of a Fox Engine version of Volgan and made some weird kind of clue about it.
Now, this looks like Raiden, but obviously the time period, there's no way it could be Raiden. It could possibly be Major Rykov from MGS3 Snake Eater, who was basically put in as a gag to appease people who wanted to beat up a Raiden lookalike.
I think,
but then again, you also in fact, you don't have to kill him, so it could be him. You just have to pacify him, so it could well be Rykov. He does have a relationship with Volgan as well.
Yeah, I mean, and also at this point, there's so many kind of Metal Gear Solid clues that if someone turns up looking like Raiden or Rykov, it's bloody Rykov. It's like, you can't have that many kind of hints and then have someone that looks a bit.
That certainly looks like Rykov.
Yeah.
As well.
Again, Fox Engine stuff. They were showing off horses. That was one of their big things.
Fox Engine stuff, but also the boss used to ride around on
a horse,
a white horse as well. So
that's true. Yeah.
Also ties in with that.
I love how they've gone for like double kind of. It's like a double rainbow horse. It's Pegasus and a unicorn. Yeah. And this is amazing. I have no idea what this means, but it's probably my favourite bit in the whole trailer. Just like the giant flaming death whale.
Yes, that's probably a hallucination.
Yeah. Now this is obviously the biggest clue. You can see these strange lines here. Essentially, if you write out Metal Gear Solid 5 with V for 5, they drop into those lines exactly, and those gaps in the letters. And that's probably the biggest clue. It's so blatant by this point.
The Phantom Pain logo, it's a little too low as well for nothing else to appear above it. So
yeah. But if you look on the site, you can see where someone's overlaid it, and you write Metal Gear Solid 5 in those gaps, and you can see the A fits in where the triangle is, the gear and the E, everything fits in place. It's almost impossible for that not to be Metal Gear Solid 5. If it is, if it isn't, then they've really had one over on us.
I just think it's worth pointing out quickly that it's very interesting to see two obviously big proper Metal Gear games possibly coming out.
Yeah.
Very close together, because that's unlike anything we've seen from Kojima before. Usually, well, a Metal Gear game, a proper Metal Gear game, you'd have 4 or 5 years between releases. So this is really exciting.
They seem to be companion games as well. They seem to be linked together in some way. I just want to skip this bit because there's another clue here, because here, that scar just under his eye is exactly the same as the scar on the Portable Ops poster. Apart from the beard, the hair, and everything about it, it says this is Snake. He's got a matching scar that's absolutely identical. Just double checking my notes.
His beard is.
He's obviously he's been in a coma, hasn't he? So the other thing that happens in a moment, when this trailer finishes, we see the Psychomantis child in a second rise up from the floor in the top right. There he goes. So we see this sort of what we assume is Psychomantis as a child. When the trailer goes black, you hear a voice going, V has come round. V as in 5. It wouldn't be that hard for them to suggest, to work a way in to the game that they've given him the code name V, but clearly they're going 5 is here. 5 has woken up. This is 5. So there you go. Basically, this is the Phantom Pain, which in every way, in every sort of hint we can find, seems to be Metal Gear Solid 5. You got anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think hopefully we've made a fairly concrete case of that as well, the mental footage you've just watched. So yeah, I think it's quite compelling. It's certainly the next.
I almost worry if we're being kind of like double tricked, where it'll turn out not to be, because there's so much there, it's almost embarrassing. Anyway, leave some comments. We'll catch up with you guys later. Bye.
Cheers.